This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
Apparently, there are two kinds of money in retirement. Money that you have to go get and money that just shows up in your account every month. Strange as it sounds here, how your money arrives can have a big impact on how you spend it. They say retirees with guaranteed income tend to treat it like a paycheck, spending about 80 cents on every dollar that they receive. But retirees who have to pull money from investment accounts spend only about 50 cents of every dollar they withdraw. And for retirees, income feels like money that's meant to be spent. Investment accounts feel like wealth that should be preserved. So it sounds like an easy choice here, Mark, but when we talk about guaranteed income, we're usually talking about an annuity, and that's where the conversation gets emotional. Talk to me about this.
Well, yeah, that's a loaded term. I've never heard that statistic. I find it quite interesting, and I'm certain it's true based on just my experience over the last 34 years. People do behave differently when they have guaranteed sources of income, and it's not just an annuity. I mean, it can be Social Security, it can be pensions. An annuity is effectively a private pension, though. It's income you can't outlive when you use an income contract. There's different kinds of annuities, but when we're talking about income contracts, they're wonderful because, again, you can't outlive that income, and there's no question. But people think differently when they know that money's hitting every month. It's like permission to go and actually enjoy it versus worrying about not having enough the next month, not having enough assets to create the income needed for future whatever needs they have. Annuities are wonderful things. It absolutely changes people's mindset. My dad and I had a funny conversation once about this when I was answering some questions he had about annuities, and he said basically, the longer I live, the more I get to beat the house. We're here in Vegas, and he was thinking of those terms, beating the house against the insurance company. And it was just this idea again that people who have guaranteed income have less stress in their lives. They're happier, and the studies show that not only happier, but they live longer. And it makes sense, you know, if you know there's more money coming in, it's just something to look forward to. You're going to go and enjoy it. You can think more freely when you have guaranteed income. So it's one of the reasons that people come to us for annuities. There's so much misunderstanding because it means thousands of different things based upon who you're talking to. So come visit with us. There's, like any other tool, it's just a tool, but like any other tool, it has a unique capability, and we can help people really benefit from them.
Absolutely. As you talked about here, I mean, guaranteed income really creates that spending confidence, takes that weight off your shoulders a little bit, and gives you that confidence moving into retirement. And a lot of folks look at this income conversation and say, well, the challenge is turning assets into income, not to mention income that I can't outlive, right? These are big conversations that you're going to have. And this is something that, again, you talk about, Mark, they call you all the time and say, listen, I'm just trying to make sure that I don't run out of income in retirement. And if you're wondering how this is all possible, give a call today for your very own custom retirement roadmap. Again, here the show, the roadmap to navigate retirement. We're going to give you the roadmap so that you can navigate your own retirement. That phone number, 702-996-4050. 702-996-4050. That website, mygoldenyearsroadmap.com. We all know Kevin O'Leary. He is Mr. Wonderful on, of course, TV's Shark Tank, but he's also a big advocate for financial literacy. O'Leary recently told the Steve Harvey Show that's something that is really missing from today's education.
We teach young people everything, geography, reading, math, and we don't teach them about investing. The average salary in America is $52,000. And if you put aside 10% of what you get paid, by the time you're 65, you'll have $1.2 million in the bank. Nobody teaches them that. So a lot of people in America end up at 65 with nothing in the bank, no investments, nothing for retirement.
Okay, well, again, I think he's 100% right on that. Yes. Financial literacy is something we're lacking everywhere. I mean, I know you have a lot of feelings about this too, Mark.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why we're so committed to the educational programs that we offer. We just did another series of classes here in the office, and those were focused on estate planning, but we've got our fall series down at the College of Southern Nevada where we do these adult education courses. Of course, they're free for the public, but it's really important for adults to think differently because people approaching retirement, you know, they've often learned through the school of hard knocks, you know, how to accumulate money. And for many of them, it's been sacrificing going without so that they can save and they can invest. And mutual fund opportunities when 401ks have been wonderful for helping your average American accumulate wealth. But the problem is when we hit retirement or prepare to enter into retirement, the game changes entirely. It's no longer about trying to get the greatest possible rates of return, but it shifts to how do we preserve what we have? How do we get a respectable amount of return on the portfolio? But how do we get down the mountain safely? I often use that analogy of going up the mountain versus coming down the mountain. It's two different games. Coming down the mountain is where the fatalities occur, and we have to just implement entirely different strategies. So the strategies that get us successfully to retirement are not the strategies that actually keep us there safely. And that's a big mental shift for a lot of adults. In fact, it's a point of tension with many people. I mean, I'm thinking of a couple that they come to our class, and particularly with guys, there's a problem sometimes because they think that my role is all about getting them the sexiest possible returns. And that's not what a retirement planner does. That's what a gambler does. That maybe that's what your stockbroker is going to do for you, is just try to chase returns. But a retirement planner is looking at dozens of other issues: healthcare coordination, income coordination, tax issues, for example. But really, preservation of assets is a critical issue in retirement because the risks are entirely different once we start liquidating accounts to create the income that's needed. So go to our website, contact the office. We're doing educational classes all the time to help people, and there's no cost to the public for this. Frankly, it's how we meet our best clients, is they can see that we do things uniquely differently. It's a free service for the community.
This is the great thing. Yes, it's absolutely free. Again, that calendar is always being updated. Check it out again at mygoldenyearsroadmap.com. If you're thinking, I don't want to wait for an educational event, I want to sit down with Mark one-on-one, because exactly what you just said here, right? The income and the strategies you've used to get you to retirement won't necessarily get you all the way through retirement. So what different tools, what different strategies, what different options do you need to be looking at? And by the way, there's no cookie cutter approach to creating this retirement roadmap. It's all custom to you. That phone number, 702-996-4050, 702-996-4050. Call right now to book your time with Mark. At the beginning of the show here, you were talking about how it is back to school time, right? A lot of students get grabbing the book bag, hitting the books again. Well, for millions of older Americans, school never really left their budget. According to a recent analysis by Fidelity, roughly 9.5 million Americans over the age of 50 are carrying student loan debt, and that could be their debt or even their kids, with an average balance of around $47,000. So what happens when student loans follow people all the way into retirement, Mark?
Oh, this is a painful topic, and it's dear to my heart because I can think of, three people immediately come to mind, two of which were friends of mine from high school. I mean, one was an attorney who I remember, this was about 10 years ago, we were both, I'll be 60 here in a few weeks. We were both entering our early 50s, and he had about $300,000 of student loan debt still from his law school experience. And I remember trying to politely get my mind around that because he'd been out of law school for 25 years, and I'm thinking, how do you still have $300,000 in debt? They had deferred, and paid the minimum possible all this time, and they had had great experiences as a family, but they just let that debt continue to ride. I've seen that also with medical professionals as well, and it's kind of scary. But there's two women that come to mind that I'm thinking of who went back to school in their 50s to get graduate degrees and kind of retool, as it were, to get better income potential at work. And they came to me, as they're approaching 60, and they're wondering, what are our retirement opportunities? And each of them had debt of around $150,000 and just getting started in their new careers here. And it was a very difficult conversation because I had to talk to them about, okay, well, now you're doing the kind of work that you love, but you're going to have to do it a lot longer than maybe you thought. I remember the one woman wanted to retire at 62 within just a couple of years, and there was no possible way that could happen. She could never live on Social Security. She couldn't even pay her student loans on Social Security, let alone live on it, and didn't have any savings other than that debt. So this is a very hard thing, and we're seeing it more and more where people are going back to school to retool for a second career, and I think that's wonderful. But if it comes with a lot of debt, you may want to rethink that because, in the case of all three of these people, they're going to be working into their 70s. There's just no way around it. And that's heartbreaking when that wasn't their expectation. If you want to work into your 70s, that's fine. But, we're trying to get people to a work-optional lifestyle, and for them it's not going to be optional. They're going to have to work because they've just carried so much debt. So we really want to go into retirement without debt of any kind, frankly. Come visit with us, folks. If you've got anxieties about these things, sometimes it just takes a third party to have a real candid conversation with you. I wish it didn't have to be as painful as it was for those two ladies, but we want to help you. We got to have a reality check because there's no progress without truth.
Absolutely. You talk about that reality check. We can have expectations and wants and desires all day long, right? But if your reality is not meeting those expectations, it's better to know now versus when you're right there on the cusp of trying to retire. So therefore, you have enough time to be proactive, make some changes, make some sacrifices to potentially reach that expectation of when you want to retire, how you want to retire, what you want to do in retirement. If you are thinking, well, I think my expectations are X, Y, and Z, but I have no idea how my income, how my savings is adding up to that, or if it even can compete, this is where this Golden Years Retirement Roadmap comes in, guys. Retirement's a journey, right? We want to make sure you're headed in the right direction from the get-go. If you'd like to sit down with Mark and put together your very own personalized Golden Years Retirement Roadmap, call right now, 702-996-4050, 702-996-4050. MyGoldenYearsRoadmap.com is, of course, the website. Can the stock market continue to go up? Wealth advisor Holly Newman Croft tells CNBC that's the number one question her clients are asking. And, of course, her answer is always yes, especially when it comes to AI stocks.
The second question is, why shouldn't I just own the Mag 7 or the top 10? And I show them the chart on a down day of what can happen. It's too risky to be so concentrated. This is irreplaceable wealth largely for my clients. So my job is downside protection and responsible growth of their portfolios.
All right, well, let's break this down here. I mean, do you find yourself having to talk clients out of actually chasing the market's biggest winners and back towards more of a diversified strategy?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and particularly for men. It seems to be a testosterone thing or something. I don't know what it is, but, people over the last few decades have had such wonderful experiences in the market that they just assume that will always continue. And now understand, I am incredibly optimistic about the market and about the economy generally. I think we're in a period of human history that is unlike anything that's ever been experienced before. I mean, we're just making these incredible leaps forward at a pace that was frankly unimaginable at any prior time in history. So I'm very, very optimistic about the long-term growth of the economy and individuals' economic opportunities. But again, as this woman says, she's apparently a retirement planner, we have to think differently when we go into retirement, because if there's a downturn, we may not have time to recover. It's all about time and timing. So when the timing of those bad hits in the market happen could be devastating for us, particularly if it's during the early years of retirement when we're taking money out of our portfolio to live on. So I always tell people, if you have that hankering still where you want to dabble in the market, let's just start from the beginning and admit that to ourselves, that we like to gamble. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with gambling, but let's just admit to ourselves what we're doing. And so maybe a person wants to take 5 or 10% of their portfolio, maybe 50, 100,000, whatever it may be, and use that as their gambling money. I have no problem with that. We just have to acknowledge what it is we're doing and recognize that that's not what I'm going to be doing for them, because that's not what a retirement planner does. A retirement planner is about getting people safe. It's more about risk management than anything. It's about getting people safely down the mountain. And that has nothing to do with chasing returns. Chasing returns is where the catastrophes can happen. So we just have to recognize what we're doing and be honest with ourselves. And many people have a hard time with that because they come to me and they say, I think I should be getting 15% returns every year for the rest of my life in retirement. In which case I have to tell them, I'm not the guy for you, because that's not the game that we're playing. We are retirement planners. We're about helping people have their dignity, not running out of money, because that's their number one fear. Most people's number one fear is running running out of money. And it's kind of interesting because we see this dynamic differently with men and women. Again, I keep referring to men and this testosterone factor, but it's funny sometimes when you see it within a marriage because, you know, one spouse will start saying something and the other spouse is looking at him thinking, what in the... and I'm right across the table from them seeing these reactions. And so it's wonderful for me because I get to help facilitate this, you know, and spouses don't always get on the same page, but until we have the conversations that kind of surface these issues, we never know, you know, where we're at as couples. And we've got to be, particularly in married couples, we've got to be on the same page going into retirement. So I love these conversations that I get to have with people. Is sometimes we're bursting bubbles for people that need to be burst, as it were. And other times we're just able to encourage them, and that's always fun.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.